Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. As always, I'm so excited you're here. I have another kind of off the cuff episode here for you. There may not be an intro, there may not be an outro, it may not be edited, so just bear with me on this one. But I've been getting this question lately, and I had a little bit of time, and I felt inspired to record this. So I'm excited to share this with you, and maybe it's something that you've been wondering about too. But I had my 40th birthday this last week. So I turned 40, which is super exciting. I had a lot of people asking me, and this isn't the question that the podcast is about, this episode is about, but I turned 40, so lots of people are asking me like, oh my gosh, how do you feel? Like, do you feel older? How do you feel about turning 40? Like, it's a big milestone, all of these things. And I am just like, I'm so excited. I am so excited for my 40s. I feel great. I feel amazing. I feel like excited, and that's what I tell people, and they kind of look at me like I'm like, really, you really feel excited? But I was reflecting, and I think that like my 30s, I had my oldest son when I was 30. So for the last decade, the last 10 years, he's 10 now, has really just been about raising my boys and, being a mom, learning to be a mom. That took a long time, right? And for those of you that are moms know, like having your first child is a huge adjustment. And I went, I don't know. So my 30s was all about my boys. And now that they're older, they're 8 and 10 now, they're a little bit more self-sufficient. I feel like my 40s is really going to be about coming back to me and figuring out again, like who I am again, right? Because obviously I'm not the same person that I was in my, 10 years ago in my 30s or even 20 years ago in my 20s, but it's coming back and rediscovering who I am and who I want to become in my 40s. And probably also, I was telling my husband, I'm like, maybe we'll get to have a conversation in my 40s now without being interrupted. So you moms, you understand, you guys know. Anyways, I'm super excited about being 40 to answer that question. But the question that I've been asking, so for my birthday, for the past 2 weeks, I had dropped these really fun birthday offers. Like I was just felt like I wanted to do something different. I wanted to throw different things out there. I wanted to try things. I wanted to, just throw different fun offers out there. I love celebrating like anything. Even if it's not a birthday, I'll find something to celebrate. And so I used my birthday as just a way to like try out some new things, try out some new offers. And all of these offers, like I was never like attached to any of them. I was like, let me just try this. This just sounds fun. Like, let me just throw it out there and see what happens. So, and they were so much fun. Like I had a blast, and now I have some new offers. I did a master class. I had some, what else did I have? Oh, I did content audits, which was so fun, like way more fun than I thought it was even going to be. And then I also had 2 different Voxer offers. And so that is the question that I had been getting mostly from other coaches. So people will reach out to me quite often, and they'll say, how do you run, like, tell me about your Voxer coaching. How do you run Voxer? How do you do that? How does that work? I'm thinking about, adding it to my offer suite. And so that's the question I'm going to answer for you today is, how do I run my Voxer? And I want to preface this, okay, with like, whatever I say is not like the end all be all ever. And I mean, hopefully you know that. Like, you can take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm just going to share my experience with Voxer and coaching in Voxer, both from the client side and from the coaching side, and kind of share with you how I design my offers, how I run them, my boundaries around Voxer, how I share it with clients, ground rules that I set when we start in Voxer, and then all of the questions. I've like literally compiled all the questions that I've gotten about Voxer, so I'm just gonna go ahead and answer them here today. And for those of you that are curious or don't know, Voxer is just a messaging app. Like, that's all it is. It's a messaging app. You just message back and forth. It's basically like text messaging, but it's not within your actual text messages. It is a totally separate app, and I like it because it keeps my like personal things separate from my like coaching things, I guess. And I like that about it. And not that like my personal life and my coaching like don't overlap, because they do in a lot of ways. But in this situation, like I like having this thing separate from my text messages. So you can send voice messages back and forth. You can send text messages. You can send, I think, short 1-minute videos. You can send photos. So it's just like texting. You've probably heard of it, or you've heard of Telegram. Telegram is another one. There's a couple more I think that people use, but I'm going to specifically talk about Voxer today because that's the one that I'm familiar with. That's the one that I offer, but you could take this information and like move it literally into any other platform. Okay. So first question, people that I have been asked, is this your lowest offer? So basically what I offer is Voxer coaching. And that basically means that I design my packages. So if you are a Voxer client, you are in Voxer, or I'm in Voxer with you, you're in Voxer with me. 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. So Fridays, you guys know, I don't take calls. I work on Fridays, but I just don't do any like client facing things on Fridays. So Monday through Thursday, we are in Voxer together, and it's a really, really fast paced type environment, right? And I've had clients in Voxer with me for short-term spaces, and I've also had Voxer clients with me in longer-term spaces. So one of my Voxer clients is going on, like, we've been together in Voxer for almost a year, and I'll talk more about that a little bit later. So it can be short-term, it can be long-term. That's another question I get asked. Is it just like, and even like one of my birthday offers, it was a day in Voxer, right? So like, let's dig in for one day together, like you and I going back and forth to really check off this one thing that you've been trying to figure out, or get this one thing accomplished that like has been on your list and it's just like looming and you just need a little bit of extra support in order to get it done. And people like Voxer too, like, because it's really a way to like pick somebody's brain, right? And some Voxer spaces like have a really specific like topic, like here's what we're going to do in Voxer, over this, 2 weeks or week or whatever, however it looks like. Or it can be just kind of like, yeah, ask me anything, like pick my brain, what, all of those things that you're trying to figure out. It's all good. Okay. So going back to the question, is it my lowest offer? Not necessarily. It could be, but it could also not be. And here's what I found from experience. So how this all started with me, how Voxer started for me, was I was doing one-to-one coaching, right? So just like basic one-to-one, like we get on a call every week, 45-minute call on Zoom, we talk it through, and then we get off the call, and then we meet again the following week. Okay, that's great, but like people I found, like my people, and I'm like this too, like we want to move a little bit faster. Like we need a little bit more like movement, I guess. Like, I don't know. That's just what I found. And it's what I found most of the people that come into my space they're like go-getters, and they want to move, right? They're not into like sitting around and like waiting for another call the next week. But that's also great too. Like the one-to-one calls in the Zoom works great for some people too. So it really just depends. And again, you have to keep in mind like the client and their goal and what it is that you want to accomplish together, right? There's no like hard and fast rules for any of this, literally for anything. With Voxer, packages, coaching, the way that you offer things, like there's no rules. There's no rules. And I think oftentimes we get stuck, like we get into this mindset of like, there are rules that am I doing this correctly? Am I doing this right? But really, like, there's actually no rules. So throwing all the rules out of the window, Voxer could be my lowest offer, it could be my highest offer. So like I said, for my birthday offer, it was one day in Voxer. So that's like in and out, super fast paced, like here it is, like this is what we're going to accomplish in this one day. This is your specific goal that you want to get done. Here we go, let's do this. And then the longer term is there's still an overarching goal, as there always should be in coaching, right? But it's broader and it's bigger and it's more, I guess to say it's zoomed out, right? Like, so we're still working towards a specific goal, but it's just not as hard and fast moving. It's still fast moving because we're in there every day, Monday through Thursday. But it's just kind of like you helicopter up a little to see the bigger picture in the longer term offer. So it could be short term or it could be long term. now I remember what I was saying. So let me go back. So I used to offer the one-to-one coaching packages, right? What I found is that people needed a little bit more extra support. And I also too, like I wanted to be able to support them in that in-between time where like, okay, we decide on the call that we're gonna do something or they're gonna do something, and then they go off the next day or the next week to get it done, and then something pops up. There's a block, there's a limiting belief, there's fear, there's a snag in the plan, something didn't go as anticipated. Like I don't want my clients to have to wait like a whole week or 2 weeks to be able to like check in and be like, oh my gosh, how do I handle this? Like I don't want them to like stop what they're doing. I want them to keep the momentum. And so what Voxer provided for me and my clients was that space to be like, uh-oh, like something happened here. Or even like, it didn't even have to be an uh-oh. It could be something that they're celebrating or something that they're like super excited about and they wanted to share, they wanted to celebrate. Or even just like something, you know how we have like thoughts at like 3 a.m. or we have thoughts like in the shower or thoughts while we're driving. Like I tell my clients, I'm like, if there's something that comes up and you want to capture it, drop it in Voxer. It doesn't matter if it's midnight. It doesn't matter if it's like, 2 a.m. It doesn't matter if, it's on a Friday or Sunday or whatever. Like just drop it in there so we have it there to come back to. That doesn't mean that I'm checking it at 2 a.m. or I'm responding at 2 a.m. because I do have really solid boundaries around Voxer, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. But essentially what happened is that became a check-in point, right? So I have my one-to-one clients, they're checking in with me on Voxer. And what I realized was that those in-between times were when the big things were happening. Like they were big breakthroughs, just as big as if we were on a one-to-one call. So in my head, I'm like, well, why do we need to wait to have these one-to-one calls? Like let's play with this idea of offering Voxer coaching just as a standalone like thing for itself, because some people don't want to get on a call. Like some people they just want their questions answered, or they just want to be able to listen in, tap in to that space when it's convenient for them, whether that's in the pickup line, while they're waiting to get their kids at school, whether it's, we're all busy. We've all got a lot of stuff going on, right? And so it was at that point that I also too had entered into my first Voxer coaching relationship, and it was only Voxer. There were no calls with it. It was just only Voxer coaching. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool because we can accomplish so much in a shorter amount of time. Like I am doing all of these things that I don't want to have to wait a whole week in between to like do this. So you can picture like I'm on the client end now, like loving it. And then on the coaching end, I'm like, let me play with this and see how I can incorporate this into my offerings as well. So what I did is I offered it as a standalone, right? So it's just, you could choose one-to-one coaching. So you're coaching with me. You either get the calls, the weekly calls, or you get the Voxer Monday through Thursday. Perfect. So I'm, again, putting myself in a box, being like one or the other. So anyways, we head off with that. We do that. I've got the one-to-one clients. I've also got the Voxer clients. Everything's going great. But what I found, and this was interesting for me, is that I was actually spending more time and more energy and more effort in the Voxer only space than I was in the Zoom call one-to-one coaching space. So this took a little bit of like massaging to figure out like, okay, like if I'm spending just as much time and energy and expertise and, knowledge and all of those things, if not more, if I'm spending more of that in Voxer, then they kind of both need to be like, the investment needs to kind of be at least similar, right? Because like it doesn't make sense for me to offer Voxer only coaching at a lower price point than it does to offer the one-to-one coaching when I'm actually like it would be a no-brainer, right? Like why wouldn't you go there and get more? So it took a little bit of working with and like a little bit of figuring out that like, oh, wait a second, like, hold on, like they need to essentially be the same price point. And so that was so the evolution of this Voxer packaging. So then they become the same price point, right? We started off with Voxer being a little bit lower than the Zoom calls. Now at this point in the timeline, they are the same. Like you choose between calls or you choose Voxer only. They're the same price point. Okay, perfect. So then what ended up happening is now I have both types of clients. Everything's going great in both spaces. But the one-to-one clients on Zoom, I'm finding that they need that Voxer. Like I think it's just the people that come into my space, because this is how I am too. Like I said before, like they just want to move. Like, we want to go. Let's go. Let's do things. We don't want to wait a whole week in between. So I was essentially using Voxer with those Zoom call only people as almost like, it was basically like a check-in, but again, it ended up being like I was spending more time in there. So then it evolved into, okay, you can choose the Zoom calls, you can choose the Voxer only, or you can choose the Zoom calls with Voxer support also. So that's like the whole shebang, right? Like, you're getting the call, we're sitting down, we have that dedicated time, but now also you're getting, this Monday through Thursday access to me to work through all of these things, essentially, right? So there's that. So when we say like, when I got this question, like, is it my lowest offer? No, it's not. But here's the thing, it could be. Like I said before, I think that I've boxed myself in a lot of ways up until now, but being like, it has to be this or it has to be this. It has to be A or it has to be B. When really it can be whatever the heck that I want it to be, right? Like it could be a couple calls a month and Voxer support. It could be 1 week in Voxer. It could be 1 day in Voxer, like I was playing with. It could be, one of my other birthday offers was 12 days in Voxer, so 3 weeks because my birthday was on the 12th. Like, we can just play with this and we can figure out what the client's goal is, and what the best case scenario or what the best thing would be for them to get them to that goal. And then you also have to take into consideration, how they work, because Voxer does take a specific type of person. Like, you do have to make sure that it's somebody that's going to be in there with you and that's going to like not be afraid, right, to like speak and to move and to talk and to ask the questions and to just, pop in and out and be there. So it does take a specific person. It takes like a go-getter person, I feel like, that's willing to get in there and get messy and do the work. Okay, so those are those questions. So it's not something that I offered since the very beginning, but it's definitely evolved, and we're still figuring it out, right? We're still in the evolution process. Okay, the other main big question that I get about Voxer is your boundaries. What are your boundaries, Sandy? And how often, like how frequently do you respond to your clients when they respond to you? How do you do this? Okay. So this is another interesting one, because I, as most of us are, a recovering people pleaser, right? I come from the teaching education world, so I'm used to feeling like I need to be on all the time. I'm used to feeling like I need to respond right away. I'm used to feeling like I gotta get people answers immediately or else the whole world's gonna fall apart. But that's actually not the case anymore. So my personal boundaries around Voxer, I check Voxer 3 times a day. And again, like what I say here is not the hard and fast rule. It's whatever you want to do, whatever feels good to you, whatever works for you and is going to get your clients results, then just do that. That's what I always tell people. So I check Voxer 3 times a day, but if we're being totally honest, which I always am honest with you, it's usually way more than that. I, again, love Voxer because it's flexible for me. It's flexible for me as the coach. It's flexible for my clients. So again, sometimes I'll be sitting in the pickup line waiting to pick up my kids at school, and I'm boxing my clients. But with that being said, I do set intentions at the beginning of our Voxer relationship. I'm like, here's what I do. I check it at least 3 times a day, so you can expect to hear from me 3 times a day. You can ask any questions that you want. Nothing is off limits in Voxer. And all of my clients know that I'm very, very open. Like, I am an open book. Questions about business, of course, are like, that's usually why people get into Voxer with me. But questions about, mindset stuff, about how you think, how you handle things, about parenting. I get a lot of questions about parenting, like, because, you're just having a rough day and you're like, oh my gosh, my kids didn't sleep last night. Blah. Like, how do you balance all of these things? How do you balance, building a business and being a mom and not getting any sleep? And, like, nothing's off limits. I'm happy to share anything inside of Voxer. My clients know that. So usually 3 times a day. I don't have any parameters around like how many times my clients can Vox me. I've heard of that before. Like, you can send me 1 question per day, or like, I don't know, whatever that. I don't do that. But I mean, if that works for you, then that's great. I've also been in Voxer spaces, and I thought that this was really, really interesting too. And I'm kind of like playing with this idea now. Is I've been in Voxer spaces where the coach, I'm the client, they're the coach, and they're like, hey, when you send me messages, you can send me as many messages as you want, but just make sure that they're under 2 minutes. And at first I was like, oh, under 2 minutes? Like, Voxer gives you a limit of 15 minutes. So I don't know, I guess 2 minutes. So anyways, the reasoning behind that though was like, let's be concise. Let's get right to the point. Let's get in and out and let's do this. Like, let's not come in here and, spill your whole entire life story. And I thought that was really interesting and actually really, really like brilliant. And she wasn't like, if your message is 3 minutes, I'm going to like ban you from Voxer or anything like that. But it was just like, let's practice being really concise. Let's practice getting right to the point. Let's practice being really specific by making these messages 2 minutes or less. So I thought that was really interesting and really actually kind of cool. And then she'll come back. She spends, more time answering or, asking questions and all that stuff. But I thought that was cool. Because, it can be tricky. Like, sometimes we have clients that come in and they're leaving, those multiple 15-minute messages. And again, it's fine. Like, I personally am like, okay, but like, you gotta let me know what the question is. Like, you gotta let me know if you need a space to come vent, then like vent, but tell me that's what you're doing, and then get to the question, or let's get to like how you want to move through this, or I'll help you move through this. But I think that setting the expectations beforehand will avoid those situations, right? Because again, like, you don't want to end up with like multiple 15-minute messages every day, and then you're listening to them, for 45 minutes and then having to respond. So that can get a little bit tricky. So just thinking about what you want your clients, like how to handle it. My clients also know too, I mentioned this before, that they can send me messages anytime. It doesn't matter if it's outside of my like assigned Voxer time. Like, I get up really early, which works good for my East Coast people. But I'm usually in Voxer around 5 a.m. until about 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon my time. So it's a good solid amount of time. But again, I'm like, if something comes up for you, or you need to just get something out, or you have this idea that comes out in the middle of the night, just drop it in there. It's totally fine. And I've had clients do this, and then immediately after they'll apologize and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. Like, I know it's, midnight your time and you're probably asleep, and I hope this didn't wake you up, da 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 da. They just feel really bad. And I'm like, look, no need to feel guilty. I already told you what my parameters are. I already told you that it's fine with me that you can leave messages anytime you want. I have really solid boundaries around Voxer, so trust me to hold my boundaries, and I'm trusting you that you are going to use the space to the best. Like, you're not going to abuse essentially this space, and you're going to use it for what it's for, and that's movement and coaching and moving it forward. So moving yourself forward. And if you need to do that at midnight, then do it at midnight. I'll get to it in the morning or the next time that I'm in Voxer. So those are my boundaries around Voxer. I know like sometimes people, it's tricky though, because you never really know, like when you sign, and I can say this from experience too, when you sign somebody up to do Voxer coaching, you don't know, like you just don't know what type of Voxer person they're going to be. Are they going to be someone that is leaving, the 15-minute messages, or are they someone that's going to be like in and out? And there's no right or wrong way. Like, I don't think either one is like bad or good or anything like that. but it's tricky. So what I've also played with the idea, and I actually also coach somebody through this too. She's thinking about offering coaching, Voxer coaching, and she is thinking about doing a 1 week before she signs them on, doing a 1 week trial. Just like you get in for 1 week, you go back and forth on Voxer just to kind of get a feel for it, get a feel if it's the right fit for them, get a feel for what type of client they are, get a feel for, the types of messages that are being sent, the length of the messages, and if it feels like a good fit. So that might be another option too. So there are no, again, hard and fast rules with Voxer. Everything that I've done in my business up until now is like just literally playing with it and seeing what works and seeing how it feels for me. That's always like one of the first things that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this and I want to pay attention to how this feels for me. Does it feel inspiring? Does it feel good? Does it feel energizing? Do I feel excited to step in and do this particular thing, whether it's Voxer coaching or any other type of offer? Because again, I think that we oftentimes box ourselves into like the one-to-one coaching is the only way to do things. And it's really not. Like, I've even been, you guys, in spaces, in group Voxer spaces where there's like a big group of people. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. Like, this is, I just don't know. But I knew I needed to be in these spaces as the client, from the client end. And can I just tell you, it's like the most freaking incredible thing. Like, it could be a mastermind in Voxer. It could be a mini mind in Voxer. It could be like, and literally like my OCD brain was like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to keep track of all this? How am I going to, but somehow it works. Like it always works out. And so you can play with this and you can try things out and you can do different things and you can test it out and you can see, number one, how it feels for you. And then number two, like my thing is always like, is this helping my client? Is this the best thing for my client? They tell me the goal, and then let's see if we can get them to that point in however that looks, whether it's with the Zoom calls, whether it's with just the Voxer, whether it's with one day in Voxer, like depending on what the goal is. And the other cool thing too is like we can combine what we already have, right? Like I can combine the one-to-one calls with, the Zoom, and I can package things in different ways and I can bundle things in different ways and I can put things together in a way, again, that feels really good to me and that's getting my clients the results that they're coming to me for. And that's really what it's all about. So if you're keeping those two things at the forefront and you also go into it like just understanding that like you're gonna have to play with it, you're gonna have to tweak things, like you're gonna do things and you're gonna be like, uh-oh, like shouldn't have done that, like okay, next time, like this is how I'm gonna tweak things. It's all just about refinement as you go. And this is not to say that like I have it all figured out, because clearly you hear me like talking this through and new things that I'm playing with, new things that I'm doing. So yeah, another thing too, so let me just drop this in here before I run out of time, but I actually don't have, I'm putting a time limit on myself. I don't have a time limit, but I wanted to share this too. So I have, like I mentioned before, I have an amazing Voxer only client who, she's been with me for almost a year now. We're going on a year and it's been incredible. So many amazing things. But what we found in Voxer is that like, we were like, we can't like, how are we like Voxer is not searchable. Right? So like you could have this amazing conversation. You could even like send the message of this beautiful breakthrough, and then you could type a little note that says like, this is about my breakthrough, about, I don't know, this limiting belief that I was having and now I, whatever. And then, so it's kind of tagged like, what the message is about, but then, weeks or months go by and it's like, how am I going to find that message now? Like I have to either scroll back and like there's no way to search in Voxer. So what we've been playing with is we moved everything from Voxer over into Slack. And so Slack is just another, I think Slack is normally used for like teams of people that are working in a project, but we moved our coaching over to Slack, again, with the intention of just playing with it. We're like, let's just see how it feels. Let's see what happens. And there was a lot of resistance on both of our ends when we first like jump ship over to Slack. We were both like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know. This is different. Not for any real reason, just because it was different. Like it wasn't what we were used to. But now that we've kind of got the hang of it, it's so cool because we have everything organized in channels. So like we have a strategy channel, we have just a like life channel, like life updates on each other. We have the content channel, we have just a general channel, we have a podcast channel, there's a mindset channel. Like, so all of the things go in the right, like in that channel or that bucket in that topic, and then it's all searchable. Like we can search for things. Like if I can't find something, I can literally just search for it, which has been really, really cool. So again, just playing with things, like just being like, let's try this and let's see what happens. So there's no right or wrong way to do anything. Voxer, I think, is an amazing, amazing tool for coaching, for coaches, both on the coaching end and the client end. I have benefited from being on the client end, so I know how powerful it can be, how convenient it can be, and how it can work into anyone's schedule, especially if, you know, we're always on the go. Like I said, we always have so much going on. So hopefully this was helpful for you as you begin to play with different offers. And I guess the biggest thing that I would again say is just remember there's no rules. You make the rules, and just to go into things, playing with things, and figuring out like what feels good to you and what's going to get your clients the very, very best results. So I would love to hear what you think about all of this, or maybe you have another Voxer question or a question about anything that I didn't answer here. Please hop on over to Instagram. Let me know, shoot me a DM. Let me know if this was helpful. Let me know if, you know, how you're doing. Maybe you do something in Voxer that I didn't even think of that I would love to hear about. And yeah, just let me know, because I always love hearing what you think and what your takeaways are. So until next time, have a great week, and I will see you guys same time, same place next week. Okay? Bye, you guys.